not roads, for roads were bad and there were not many of them. Rivers, not railways, for railways had not been invented. Then, in 1759, James Brindley designed a canal to carry coal to Manchester from the Duke of Bridgewater's mine at Worsley.
The canal tunnelled for 6 miles through the rock to the coal faces. In all, there were 40 miles of underground waterways. Along them, flat-bottomed primitive boats that served as coal tubs were dragged hand over hand by staples driven into the tunnel walls. Today, the boats and sluices are derelict. The mine is worked out. The basin is choked with reeds and sunken craft. But from Worsley to Manchester, Brindley's canal, little changed, serves the coal industry still.
The Bridgewater Canal was successful. In the next few years, the cutting of scores of canals was authorized by Parliament, and plans were drawn up for their construction. Crazily ambitious schemes were proposed. If they'd all gone through, they would have linked every important town in the country by water. Some of them came to nothing. Others quickly failed, but many prospered. On a map, the result looked like this: an intricate network serving nearly the whole country, linking natural waterways, the navigable rivers, by artificial canals.
Listen to the names of some of them. Ayr and Calder, Tame Valley, Kennet and Avon, Trent and Mersey, Thames and Severn. There was not a place in England south of Durham, it was said, more than 15 miles from water communication.
The men who built the canals were the pioneers of civil engineering: Smeaton, Brindley the millwright, Telford the bridge builder, Rennie and Jessup, men who were undeterred by any obstacle. Over the Lancashire hills and the Yorkshire moors and up onto the Midland watershed went their canals, locked from level to level. And if one lock was insufficient, they gave the boats a staircase to climb. Bridges they built, of every conceivable kind. Simple brick arches, the classic bridge of British canals. Telford's lovely iron bridges at Braunston. Turnover bridges sweeping the towpath from one side to the other. If they came to a river, they went over it. If they couldn't go round a hill, they went through it.
The first main-line canal tunnel built in England is the Harecastle Tunnel at Kidsgrove in Staffordshire. It was built by Brindley and opened in 1777. Not long afterwards, a second one, designed by Telford, was built alongside. For a long time, both were used, so that traffic could pass freely in both directions. But later, Brindley's tunnel began to close up. Now it is no longer safe, and only Telford's is used.
So, for half a century, the network spread and the canals flourished, the bloodstream of the Industrial Revolution. Then, 1825. After the canal boom, the railway boom. Before long, canal owners were facing a slump. Many of them turned their backs on the canals and were caught up in the new mania. Others made things so unpleasant that the railway companies were forced to buy them out. Slowly, the traffic on the canals dwindled. Sometimes because as time went by, other forms of transport outpaced it. Sometimes because the centers of industry were changing and shifting, and often the canals could no longer serve the purpose for which they were built. Neglect led to dereliction and often to abandonment. But some of the canals continued to thrive. Many of them did not come under railway ownership, and these are the canals which still carry the largest tonnage of goods today. And after more than a century, a map of the waterways that still carry a fair amount of traffic would look like this. The network has contracted. What does it amount to now? We have inherited many canals which can only go the way of others before them. They do not serve areas important enough even to justify the dredging they need, let alone reconstruction. But they need not become derelict. An old canal has other uses. After all, by now even the artificial canals have become part of the water catchment system of the country. They draw their water by feeders from the rivers and the streams and the becks that bring the water down from the hills. And often in the hills are the huge reservoirs built to supply the canals in times of drought. So the canals themselves are reservoirs. Farmers use them for irrigation and for watering their cattle. They provide a water supply for vital industrial undertakings. Power stations take thousands of gallons a day from the canals, and sometimes it may even be more important to keep up the levels for these purposes than for normal trade. Many canals, although they are not used for commercial traffic, are still kept open by maintenance boats because they provide water for sections which are still busy, like the Ellesmere Canal in North Wales, which brings water down from the River Dee to the main line of the Shropshire Union, from Nantwich to Chester and the sea, and from Barbridge Junction to Middlewich. We have inherited stretches along which only 4 or 5 boats pass each day, where 100 passed 10 years ago. Stretchers that are still capable of carrying the traffic they were built to carry, if the trade can be provided. And in addition, there is the really important part, the still considerable mileage which is serving the needs of thriving industrial areas. Many of the canals are not wide enough or deep enough for craft to move fast. They're full of obstructions, bridge holes where the boats must slow down. The pounds themselves very often too narrow, with flights of locks so thick that in some places boats have to spend an hour or more climbing a single hill. Tunnels which were built before motors came in and are often so small that boats can still only go through at walking pace. If we were starting from scratch now, perhaps we should build the canals differently. But it's no good thinking of them in those terms. They exist, and they're worth something as they stand. And we have inherited a tradition. The tradition of the narrow boat, with its roses and castles and its boating families. The Wallingtons and the Hambridges, the Lows and the Tollys, the Prestons and the Bunns, who rarely marry outside their own community and whose children are born and bred on the boats, in a cabin a few feet square. The boats are their homes. They're often on the move, summer and winter, in good weather and bad, for 3 or 4 weeks at a time. It is hard on the mothers, and harder still on their children. Canal children must be given the life and the opportunities of any other child in England today. This problem can be, and is being, solved. On the broad canals, the life is different because the boats can move faster. Often, trips only last a day, or at most 2 or 3 days. It's only 36 hours traveling, for instance, from Nottingham to Hull and back. There's a home ashore, a standing wage, so that the men can live the sort of life that any craftsman enjoys. The boats carry bigger loads, up to 200 tons apiece, sometimes more. A motor barge and the dumb boats it can tow may be shifting as much as 500 or 600 tons at a time. It's worth spending money to improve waterways like these, to make good the banks where they've slipped, strengthen them with steel piling, to straighten bends, and keep the channel dredged. Every inch off the bottom means that boats can carry bigger loads. So the boatman's job is made easier, and the man who wants the goods shifted is better served. Waterborne cargoes ride slow, but they ride safe, smooth, and cool. There go the boats that carry them, up to the Midlands and down again, to and fro across the north. And far inland, on the banks of the canals and the rivers, stands mile upon mile of storage space. Warehouse and wharfside, stockpile, transit shed, and silo, connected by the waterways with the ports and docks on which Britain's prosperity depends.
Scratched by water, X-pile 18 tons button blanks, 10 tons silicon metal, 250 tons aluminium ingots.
1,200 bushels Manitoba wheat loaded for Worcester.
With reference to our memo of October 3rd, please note the following boats are to load timber immediately.
500 sacks Canadian white flour, ex-Nottingham warehouse.
2 boatloads bagged salt for delivery Sokoto via the Papa.
To order of Traders Limited, 1,000 tons scrap metal, ex-steamship Merchant Prince.
The steamship Maris Maersk is coming into Sharpness docks with 1,000 standards of deal.
The timber will be taken overside and loaded direct onto barges. We carry many sorts of cargo besides timber. Petrol from America and the Mediterranean, cargoes of Canadian cheese, fruit pulp from France, grain, sugar, tin goods and other foodstuffs. Most of the stuff is towed up to Gloucester and Worcester and Stourport, and sometimes beyond.
Ships are unloading today in the Port of London.
Narrow boats come right down to Regent's Canal dock at the Thames side to pick up cargoes brought in by the small ships. Stuff from the big ships goes up the river in lighters to Brentford, and it's transferred to narrow boats there. From Brent Meadow Wharf, there's a lot of wood pulp and esparto grass goes up to the paper mills. Loose grain for milling to Wellingborough, and metal for Birmingham.
Cargoes are coming up the Mersey.
Copper and zinc, flour, food, borax, tamarind and Chinese soy for sauces, sugar from the West Indies, Australian wool, French flints, China clay brought by coaster from Cornwall. In return, we send out metal goods, pottery, salt and chemicals, some on ocean trips, some skirting the coast to be distributed from British ports.
There go the boats. The boats, and the people of the boats, and the cargoes they carry, upon the waterways of England.
from the Humber seaports have been coming up the Trent to Nottingham, passing on the way through 7